Hi everyone, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface, The Last of Us. Can you believe it? It's been nearly 7 years since the release of that game. I got it on the PlayStation 3. I think that's the only place you could get it. And then, of course, they did the remastered version later on the PlayStation 4, which, of course, I got. But it was just an awesome post-apocalyptic game with a twist. Instead of featuring the, zombies, or in this case, kind of like the pollen-affected enemies as the main driving force of the story, the driving force of the story was actually Joel and Ellie. A guy who had lost his teenage daughter on the day of the outbreak, and a teenage girl who potentially held the cure for the disease. And The Last of Us was really a story about how Joel was unwilling to trust, was unwilling to let people in because of the loss that he had felt with his daughter. And the relationship that developed between him and Ellie. And, I mean, spoilers, but it's 7 years old, so if you don't know, but it culminates in Joel finding out that when he delivers Ellie to the Fireflies, and he thinks they're just going to perform tests on her and, extract some blood and hopefully work out a cure from there, he discovers that they will actually have to kill her to extract what they need. And Joel can't handle that because he has at last allowed somebody in. He's found his surrogate daughter. And so he ends up killing the main leaders of the Firefly and saving Ellie. And then he tells Ellie a lie at the end, saying, no, they were a fraud. They were just going to hurt you. Da-da-da. And it kind of set Joel up at the end to be potentially the villain of the story. And what I mean by that is when the truth comes out, and it will come out eventually, Ellie is going to be in a completely weird position. Her death could have saved potentially millions. I don't know how many people are left on the earth. And it could have allowed them to safely or saferly clear out the infected and maybe reclaim some parts of normality again. But it was a great story, as a kind of just simple story about a father and daughter. So, with The Last of Us 2 due, and it was going to release at the end of May, but because of current day situation, it's been indefinitely postponed until they have a worldwide release. It's a little bit concerning when we get headlines like this. This is from Bounding Into Comics. Voice actor Troy Baker cautions The Last of Us Part 2 players to be open-minded. Now, one thing that was revealed in The Last of Us was that Ellie was gay. However, a lot of people might not know that who played the game. Why? Because it was only revealed in the DLC portion. So if you just played the game and stopped and never purchased the DLC, you probably wouldn't know. Also, in the main part of the story, there's a little bit which might kind of contradict that. Because they meet up with one of Joel's former friends, shall we say. They're not on particularly good terms right now. And he himself is gay. And Ellie steals a pornographic magazine from him, which obviously would contain a bunch of naked dudes, because that's his proclivity. So you'd have to ask yourself, why would a girl who's gay herself still a pornographic magazine made for gay men or women when she herself was gay. Now, you could be generous here. You know, you could just say, well, she was a kid. She's mucking about. She sees this magazine. She picks it up regardless. She's having a flick through. And it did actually lead to a little bit of comedy in an otherwise very serious game. So, okay, you know, maybe you could brush past that. But further details are kind of emerging about The Last of Us 2. And because, unfortunately, we're in the age of woke, it makes people very defensive very quickly. Which is a shame. Because I think Neil Druckmann is a wonderful storyteller. I truly do. And I think if we just lived in a normal world where people weren't constantly virtue signaling, whether it be in video games, whether it be in films, whether it be in comics, wherever it be, then stories like this could be just taken as face value and you know, potentially rather interesting. But now I'm going to go into potential spoilers for The Last of Us Part 2 now. So if you don't want to hear any of that, maybe it's time to back out of the video. But rumour has it that the villains in The Last of Us Part 2 are actually going to be a homophobic Christian cult. Okay. This from Pink News. Again, I take Pink News because I think it's a credible source to go to when discussing matters like this. So, The Last of Us Part 2 is rumoured to be a tale of bloody revenge against a homophobic Christian cult. The Last of Us Part 2 will, according to sources familiar with the video game, feature a homophobic Christian cult as its antagonists. So it goes into basic plot details. And this is Rita, maybe. This is Ellie grown up a little bit now. This is Rita, and they share a kiss on the dance floor. This was shown off at E3 a couple of years ago. And the rumour is at the end of the first act, this cult kill Rita. Because they are cleansing the wasteland of sinners. And they're white. And they're skinheads. And they predominantly attack minority groups. When we do live in the age of woke, folks, this is what worries you. Because is it just another Trump America, Orange Man Band type of story, or is Neil Druckmann legitimately putting something together rather special? But when Troy Baker himself says keep an open mind, and we go to elements of, oh boy, maybe Dina, not Rita, maybe Dina. He goes into elements of, you're either going to love the game or you're probably going to hate the game. You're not going to be ambiguous about your feelings towards it. And particularly with things like Star Wars, and particularly with things like Doctor Who in recent times, and Star Trek, splitting the fan base is the worst thing you can possibly do. The worst. So if the story is so divisive that it does divide the fan base, you either do Marmite it, you either love it or you hate it, I don't think that's particularly good storytelling, personally. Because it kind of comes across that a lot of this story was exclusionary or purposely meant to exclude a huge proportion of its potential audience. And that isn't good. We're sick and tired at the moment, particularly being lectured by a bunch of hypocrites. And what I mean by that is we get these very woke messages in media, but the people who perpetrate these messages are filth themselves. They're all kinds of disgusting. You can just see how they behave on Twitter half the time. And yet, they want to lecture us. They want to preach to us. They want to, feel superior. I don't want this to happen to this franchise, because I think The Last of Us Part 1 was an amazing game about family. Something everybody could relate to. Everyone can relate to family. But when you potentially start to, well, number one, alienate Christians. Number two, brand segments of your audience homophobic, maybe because of religious affiliations, maybe because of the way that they voted. Hashtag Brexit, hashtag Orange Man Bad. Then that isn't good storytelling whatsoever. That is exclusionary. And that's quite, in your own way, bigoted. This is the major interview. This is the big interview from Fandom UK. And this is where he goes into all of it. And it is quite concerning, because he talks very... Troy, how do I put this, fella? He talks very wishy-washy. I think that's the most polite way that I can put this. Otherwise, I'd have to say something else. Speaks very wishy-washy. Keeps talking about Joel's truth and this, that, and the other. And I thought I knew Joel's truth, but I didn't. And then I read the story, and now I know Joel's truth. So if he's referring to the fact that Joel is going to end up potentially being the main antagonist, not necessarily linked to any of this nonsense, but if it turns out that Joel becomes the main antagonist because of the way that he behaved at the end of the original Last of Us, I get it. No, to me that was the natural kind of progression of the story. To me. So I would understand that. Now, if that gets certain people mad, yeah, I could understand with them really enjoying playing Joel in the first game, and with Ellie being the protagonist in the second game. That's one you play the most, if you touch Joel at all. But at the same time, it was already kind of built in what was happening. So I don't think it's something which would jump on people. But if what he's saying is that it's because we're going down this my diversity, minorities are such a repressed group, Orange Man Bad, hashtag Brexit, all that kind of route, which we saw Picard go down, Star Trek Picard, and that became an absolute joke of a series, then you're in trouble. I think you're gonna lose a lot of potential audience. And it kind of makes me think, do I want to pick this up immediately, or do I want to wait? Do I want to wait to see whether or not this is actually a kick-ass story, or whether or not word suddenly comes out that, oh God, they actually did it. They actually went full hashtag Brexit, full hashtag Orange Man Bad. I don't know. But when you're talking about dividing a fan base, or potentially dividing a fan base, it screams alarm bells to me. There you go. I thought I'd have this little discussion piece about it. Check out the articles yourself. Bounding into Comics at Fandom UK and at Pink News. Go check out these articles. Make your own mind up. Go through the full interview as well. And I hope you enjoyed the vid. If you did, do give it a thumbs up, and also subscribe to the channel. Follow me on social media and Twitch for live streaming. Links are in the description box down below. And I'll be back with some more stuff very soon. You take care. Bye for now.